and he's got something sticking out in his shorts. I thought he just put something in his shorts.
It's like a 10-year-old joke, sure.
Yeah.
So he picks me up from the chair, stand up, and he starts pulling me into himself. And he's like, your log's not ready yet. We got to get your log ready. And he sits me down on the chair. I'm wearing shorts. It's in the summer. And he's like, close your eyes and don't open them no matter what happens.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
He was methodical. And I'm sure he had other boys in the pipeline of this behavior that were at various stages. I might have been back at the early stage, and he might have had 5 kids at the stage of it's time for molestation stage.
And then guys that graduated from molestation stage too.
Right.
You know, so this has been going on for years.
He had a 45-year reign of terror in our town. So, you know, and he was, it's not like you're going down to the dam and some homeless guys grabbing at you and pulling your pants down. This is years of slow, methodical
He put in the
behavior.
work.
Yeah.
He put in the work.
As the state police told me, he was a professional hunter of children, and he was very good at it.
Damn, I mean, I don't even know where to go with that. Like, now, the first time that he actually, like, how did it work? He groomed you for all these years.
The next stage was wrestling matches at his house. You know, let's go to my house.
This is a Different Strokes episode. That's what this is. I don't know if you saw that Different Strokes episode. So it was one of the first of its kind. Before this, like, child molestation wasn't really spoken about on, say, network TV. You remember Different Strokes with Arnold and Willis?
What you talking about, Willis?
Right. Yeah. So Arnold and Willis go to this guy's house, and I swear, not Arnold Willis, Arnold and Dudley, his best friend. They go to this house, and the guy who's grooming them, it's an abbreviated, obviously it's a half-hour show, so it's an abbreviated thing, but everything that you're saying, I'm telling you, every single thing that you're saying, this guy on this show did, as far as the porn mags, the liquor, the taking your shirt off and wrestling matches, and it's like you wrote the script for that show that was in the 80s. So that's why it's very.
Like I'm saying, there's a playbook somewhere we're missing, you know, an underground playbook.
But that was the networks didn't want to show that. They didn't want to show that. It was a big controversy when it came out.
I never heard of that.
If you watch that episode, well, I don't know if you could. It might. I don't. I imagine it brings up some bad memories. But if you watch that episode, you'll be like, yeah, he did that. He did, because everything you're describing, I remember that episode very clearly.
Take out the checklist. Check. He did that.
He did that. He did that. So the wrestling matches continue, and you know, you get a little grab in here, you get a little grab in there.
Well, he's wrestling, and he's obviously erect, you know. But at that age, you're just like, I don't know, whatever. You know, you don't really. Looking back on it now.
And your age at this time?
10.
You're 10.
And so then it progresses to at age 11, we get to his house, and instead of just Budweiser beers, he gives me glassfuls of blackberry brandy,
which is everybody's first liquor.
Let's chug this.
It'll keep you
chugged
warm.
2 glasses of blackberry brandy at 11 years old, plus Budweiser. I'm bombed. And he wants to play a game called Bumping Logs. Let's play Bumping Logs. And
Didn't you play this in high school?
Played it just before I came up here. And you say I'm bad.
This is my trauma we're dealing with here, you animals.
I had to break that one up because I'm getting this sword fighting image in my head. I'm like, I got to get that out of there. I got to get it out.
Well, he disappears to his bedroom. I don't know. He's like, I'll be right back. And he comes back, and I thought he put something into his. He always wore cargo shorts, you know, with all those pockets. And he's got something sticking out in his shorts. I thought he just put something in his shorts.
It's like a 10-year-old joke, sure.
Yeah.
So he picks me up from the chair, stand up, and he starts pulling me into himself. And he's like, your log's not ready yet. We got to get your log ready. And he sits me down on the chair. I'm wearing shorts. It's in the summer. And he's like, close your eyes and don't open them no matter what happens. I close my eyes, and within seconds, he's got my shorts down. He starts blowing me, and my eyes instantly open, and he's got his penis out, and he's jerking off as he's doing it. and I am paralyzed, gripped to the chair, frozen in fear. Like, what in the hell is going on here? You know, and he finishes himself off. You know, and
there's no greater violation in the world than touching a child. I'm at a loss for words here.
And pleasuring yourself as you're touching a child.
And, you know, and just to skip forward a hair, because it ties into that. After I got arrested, a guy from our town came forward to the prosecutor, and he said, you know, I've known Dennis Pegg for 30 years. I just want it to be known that he was the greatest guy ever. And they're like, okay. And he's like, but he did confess to me 20 years ago that he enjoyed blowing Boy Scouts. But he was a great guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm reading this like, and he emphasized what a great guy Dennis was. Like, you just said he confessed to you that he loved blowing Boy Scouts. The great guy is done.
Yeah.
The animal is out. There is no great guy.
You know, Adolf Hitler loved animals. Great animal lover.
Yeah?
Oh, killed the 6 million Jews, but don't worry about that.
Right.
You know, he just loved animals. Jesus. I mean, people will put a spin on anything.
Some should be done to that guy if he knew 20 years ago. How many victims could he have actually saved by coming forward back then?
Then you're culpable.
Yeah.
Then you're complicit in whatever crime it is.
Right.
I mean, I don't. Oh my gosh.
It's unbelievable that this guy would come forward and say that.
Now you leave his house after what just happened, and you're 10 years old. At 10 years old, the mental acuity to just process what just happened. Your first sexual experience.
I couldn't, and I was able to just put it out of my mind. And like, you know, it's not like I'm living with my monster. It's not like, you know, I'm a girl and going home to my father every day after school and he's raping me or something, you know, because I've had enough of those people reach out to me, and it's unbelievable. My things were spaced out with him, you know.
It wasn't one right after the other, is what you're saying. Yeah,
it was a progression over years of this stuff, you know. So let's jump forward to age 12. Age 12, he concocts this whole cockamamie story.
You keep going back to his house because it's normalized at this point.
Yeah.
And you're getting alcohol.
Age 12, he concocts this cockamamie story. I'm not going to go into the story, but it leads us back to his house. And it was a summer day, but inside his house, I almost think he turned the heat on in there because the house was stifling. And glasses of blackberry brandy, Budweiser beer. When
you were drinking that, did you have it in your mind like, oh shit, this is happening again?
That
happen
time,
again?
I'm like, but I was so paranoid driving to his house that I wanted to get a drink in me. Like,
Needed something to calm my nerves.
Yeah, you know, like I'm just like, you know, I'm like, let's pound this.
Did you ever try to get out?
No.
No.
And you know, this all plays with your mind as you get older and you become a man, and you're like, motherfucker.
Why didn't I see it? Yeah, why didn't I see it back then?
And that's the thing, the dichotomy of still having that 12-year-old boy inside you that hasn't healed yet, and being a grown man who wants to snap his neck in half. You know, I had a recurring dream throughout my whole life of the grown-up Clark would bust through the door of his house and rescue the 12-year-old Clark right before the shit happened. And that was always a recurring dream I had.
While this stuff is happening, did you ever escape? Because I know I've read other victims of child molestation. They escape into like comic books. And the reason they do that is because they want that hero to either be that hero or have that hero come save them.
Right.
Was there any, not superheroes per se, but was there anything that you escaped into at that age?
No. Right after the rape, there's stuff I escaped into. We'll get into that. But
so you're
12,
at
age 12, he's got this story. It ends up being at his house, alcohol, and he's got me naked on his bed, behind me in a like he's got me wrapped up, and he's raping me. I'm screaming, I'm crying, I'm screaming, I'm crying, and I tell people I know at times people feel like they're alone in the world. I literally felt like the only person on the face of the planet. Nobody came to my rescue. I was an altar boy in the Episcopal Church. God didn't strike this piece of shit down. Yeah. I felt totally alone with this evil entity raping me. He gets done. As I'm crying and screaming, he says to me, just another minute, so he could make sure he finished. That's what this piece of crap whispered in my ear from behind as I'm screaming and crying. Just another minute. We get done. He cleans me up, sets me down at his kitchen table, gives me a beer. He had a coon dog, what's called a coon dog, and coon dogs have long, drawn-out howls. This dog was going nuts because of my cries and screams. He brings his coon dog in right in front of me at the table, and he says, I want to show you what will happen if you open your mouth like my dog. And he starts beating on this dog, beating with his big fists, beating. I'm screaming and crying for him to please stop. The dog lays unconscious at my feet. You open your mouth about what happened here today, that's what's going to happen to you. What the fuck do I do now?
He just struck
what the fuck do I do?
He just transferred your pain, because it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, you have some sort of love for animals.
Little kids and animals have always loved me.
Okay. Little kids and animals have always loved you. So you're watching this, and all of a sudden you forget about yourself for a second. It was very smart.
To me, what happened to that dog was worse than the rape. Way worse.
Right.
Because I was responsible for that dog's house.
Yeah.
But that was something purposeful that he did, knowing that you would have well, I'm going to forget about me for a second, this poor dog, and then you give it a chance just to get out of your system. That's what my theory is. I'm not a medical professional.
Called throwing a scent. You throw the scent onto something else, so you forget the stink of the other scent.
God damn.
And in the playbook of a predator is incite fear in your victim.
Yeah.
He incited fear.
Now after that was the first time that he entered you.
Yeah.
All right.
First and last.
So he did it one time's enough.
Yeah.
Well, the blowjob, the wrestling, it was, like I said, it was methodical. It was, there was a process.
There's a progression.
This gentleman was a corrections officer.
Ugh.
Look at it up.
And well-respected man in town.
He was, people in your audience can Google Dennis Pegg, P-E-G-G, obituary. I think the family thought they were doing this great service to him by listing all the organizations he was in. This friggin' guy was in every organization under the sun. There has to be 30, 40 organizations in his obituary. And the police are like, that's all his hunting ground.
Of course, Dennis can't be a bad guy. Look at all the good that he did, right?
Yeah.
God, what? People get so blinded by that stuff.
Did he coach like little kid sports and all that stuff too?
Well, how about one better? His house sat on a little hill that overlooked the elementary school.
Oh my God!
So whenever there's a baseball game going on, let me go down to the field.
Let me see who's around.
Yeah. He was at all the baseball games.
So what happens after this rape?
So after this rape, he drops me off back at the dam area.
Are you medically okay? I don't want to. I'm not here to be disrespectful, because that's the most horrible thing I've ever heard in my life. By the way,
physically okay.
Are you like, you got to get sewn up? You like what?
No, I'm physically okay.
Yeah, physically okay. Yeah. You don't have to go to the hospital to. Obviously, he doesn't want you to go to the hospital, but
no, I mean, you want me to go into detail?
I mean, are you ripped up?
The piece of crap entered me a few times, and then used my ass cheeks to squeeze against his penis that way.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
holy shit!
That's when he's whispering, just another minute.
I have been on cases where this has happened. I have never spoken to somebody as an adult that's had that happen, and I'm sitting here, my stomach is
and I've never
fucking
I've
knot.
never ever shared that part. Like, nobody's ever asked me.
My stomach is.
Somebody asked me, I will tell them.
I want people to get the visual of what this does physically. And then we're going to get into what it did emotionally, which is, I'm going to guess, is probably worse than the physical. The physical, you can toughen up a little bit on that stuff. The emotional stuff is, the scars are, geez, I don't even want to think about it. But I want people to get the visual. And graphic stuff like this, my stomach is churning right now. Like I think I gotta go take a shit. Like that's what
feel
it did
I feel
to
like
me.
I'm going to throw up. That's.
I don't.
I mean, that's terrible.
You see, this might be the worst thing I ever heard.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was horrific, dude. Which
This ranks up there with Gene Halberger. Gene Halberger lost his son to suicide, but this ranks up there with that. This piece of dog shit. There's no other word for him, but you know, if you're a God-fearing man, or even whatever religion you believe in, there is a special place where Dennis Pegg is, and I'm going to say his name because I want his name to be out there.
yeah.
What does I'm sure he's had his family because you said they had the obituary and all that. Is his family still in that area?
Yeah.
Have they ever reached out to you to say?
You know what? Nobody's ever asked me that until I just got a new Instagram follower last week, and they like
Suffering Podcast?
and they went through a whole bunch of my posts, and they commented on them, and on one of the comments was, "Has Dennis Pegg's family ever reached out to apologize to you or to say anything to you?" And my answer was no. You know, and stupidly, I was originally going to reach out to them, but then I read all their interrogations, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not reaching out to them. You know?
Well,
It's not worth your time and effort.
I pray that one of them listens to one of your speaking engagements or this show, and to hear the horror that you went through physically. Now, after this, you go home, you run right to your room.
Well, he dropped me off at the lake, and I wanted to be away from the dam where all the kids congregated. I ditched my bike in the weeds, and I ran down the river, and I was just hugging myself, and I'm rocking back and forth alongside the river. And my mind told me right then, we are never going to talk about this. Talking about it is reliving it, and we don't want to fucking relive it.
There's almost got to be some sort of embarrassment too.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean,
the shame is off the charts.
It's not like you're going to get your friends and say, "Hey, guess what just happened to me?"
Well, did
You know,
did you ever think that? Hey, listen, I just got raped by a man. I must be gay.
No, you know, a lot, you know, and I'm not saying this to protect myself. A lot of victims reach out to me and they say it confused their sexuality. I never felt confused.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
no.
That's
But
things I've heard.
But my mind told me throughout my 20s and into my 30s, we got to sleep with as many women as we possibly can to feel like a man.
to overcompensate.
It just, I was a one night stand maniac in my 20s. You know, I couldn't, sleep with enough women, and it left me going into my 30s feeling empty. I felt like a shell just from. I sabotaged every relationship and every career because I never wanted to feel trapped. Trapped is how I felt in that house, and I never wanted to feel trapped again.
Now, how did you cope going into your adolescent years?
Yeah. And he raped me. They built a new high school, and they put 7th and 8th grade in the high school and took it out of the elementary school. And it was the summer after of me graduating 6th grade before I started 7th grade. If you had told me in 6th grade a month before about smoking pot or any other drug, it was like completely foreign to me. I go into 7th grade and I got all this pain and shame I'm trying to deal with. I have zero coping mechanisms. My mind's told me we're not going to talk about it. So I start smoking weed on a regular basis. 12 years old, I'm smoking weed regularly. I come home one day from school, and sitting on my bed is a bag of weed, a pop pipe, and rolling papers. I thought I was so cool hiding it in my room, and my father found it. And he's like, "What the fuck is this?" And, and back then, he missed a perfect opportunity to open up a dialogue with me and get me to talk. Instead, he took the authoritarian approach, and he's like, "I already researched military schools. There's one down by Philadelphia. You keep this shit up, I'm sending you to military school." And that shut me right up. There's no talking to him.
But now, now your coping mechanism is gone. Now what?
Oh, that lasted for a couple weeks, and then I
okay.
started right back up again.
Okay. Did it ever progress beyond weed?
Yeah. Going into high school, alcohol got easier to get. Back then, there was paper licenses, no pictures.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I had an older brother, 6 years older. he gave me his paper license.
I had
That
heard you
was
could get them
expired.
pretty easy.
Yeah.
I heard.
So now
So I
I
hear.
got his paper license. The drinking age is 18. I'm going into bars with him. He's vouching for me, like, yeah, that's my brother.
Should have went to the Grand Saloon to get your liquor. They got good liquor. They're one of our sponsors, Grand Saloon.
I love the Grand Saloon.
Grand Saloon's great, man. You get all the liquor you want, except there's no child molesters in there, so you're free to go there.
So I'm a heavy drinker in high school. You know,
I was just gonna say he goes to the bar with his brother, and the brother vouches for him, and they have a license with the same name on it.
Hey, there's not the top brass working in bars. By the way, Mike, I just want to ask, where do you work now?
No,
You work at a bar?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, but that it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. You're going to try to escape any way you can,
yeah,
numb it.
I had no coping skill.
You had none.
So I go into college. I went to Northeastern University up in Boston, Mass. This is the 80s. I went to college at 84. I tried cocaine for the first time, and I absolutely fucking loved it. It made me feel strong and powerful. It took all away those insecurities, that self-loathing. It made me outgoing.
Did you ever see that new reel that's out on Instagram? It's like somebody's talking and says, "Yeah, my favorite type of weed was cocaine."
I would say that.
But I would be if I was in your shoes, I would be shoving anything in me,
Self-medicating.
Yeah, man.
nose, mouth, smoke, whatever. I would have.
Yeah.
And you know what? If it ever came out, you ever got caught with anything? If it ever came out, what people are going to go? Oh, okay, I get it. I get it. How about your mother? Is your mother in the picture?
Yeah, she's still alive.
Okay, your mother's still alive. What was her? Did she ever have some suspicions? I'm sure your father talked to her.
Yeah, sure, but like, what do you do when your kid says absolutely not?
I guess.
What are you supposed to do?
Yeah. No, Mom, never happened. Okay, well, if something does happen, tell me.
All right.
And you've already been warned not to say anything and all that, so you're not really going to open up.
Yeah.
Now we get fast forward. You become an adult. Dennis Pegg is still living in Stillwater. His family is still in Stillwater. You've obviously seen him around town numerous times when you're there.
Yeah, we'd pass each other on the road. One time I saw him in a bar.
Did he ever wave to you? Say
Oh,
hi?
yeah. Oh, yeah,
Like
yeah,
nothing
yeah.
happened?
Like we're best friends.
Really? Now, you have the opportunity to do what everybody in your position wishes they can do, which is take care of business.